All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, I've been getting a lot of requests about how I specifically edit my real estate videos. So I thought that I would take you here in the back end and I would show you my thought process on how I set up my timeline, how I pick certain shots, how I color correct and color grade my footage. That way you guys can see exactly what I do and you can use that for your videos. So let me quickly show you a video that I did and we'll talk about my thought process behind it. Roll it. All right, so I edit in Final Cut. I used to edit in Adobe Premiere, so I have experience with both. It doesn't really matter. It just depends on what you prefer as far as your workflow. I'm on a Mac, so I prefer Final Cut because it is tailored to Macs and it just runs way better than Adobe Premiere, and it's very intuitive. So, as you can see, this was a pretty unique property. It was a home at the top and a full dermatology business at the bottom. That wasn't in the video, just the lounge, but I just shot the home portion of this property. Now, first thing is first, I shoot all of my footage in C-Log 3. Now, if you don't know what C-Log is, mid-range to higher-end cameras usually have some sort of log profile. If it's on a Canon, it's called C-Log. C for Canon. If it's on a Sony, it's called S-Log. Now, what this does is that it puts your camera in a very flat profile mode, which allows for more dynamic range and flexibility, very similar to shooting in RAW. We shoot in RAW because we have more flexibility. All the data is in that shot, and now we could really push the highlights and the shadows. So the same thing goes for real estate, and it's very important in real estate because we want those windows to show up and pop, right? We want to be able to see outside of them. So the shot you're looking at right now has no effects applied. And so this is what the flat C-Log image looks like. Now, if I apply the effects of this, you'll see that this is how the final image looks. Before, Now look at the window specifically. We could see some detail outside here, and you are going to lose a little bit of it once you do apply these effects, but you can still see outside of the window there. You can do this again in both Adobe Premiere and in Final Cut. But in Final Cut, you want to go to Window, Workspaces, Color and Effects. So when you go here and you turn off your effects, you're going to see here in this Luma chart that everything is compressed. What you need to do is you need to decompress all that data. That's going to give you a guide on how much you need to color correct this footage. Now, the waveform basically follows the image. So you could see right here on the right side of the waveform that the highlights. So up here are the highlights or the whites, the brightest parts of the image. And down here, 0 are the darkest part of the image. So you can see over on the right-hand side here, it's almost all the way up to the highest point at 100. And that's because that is showing you this actual window here, right? So you see how it's squared over here, and then you got another little square over here. That's the other window. So that's legitimately just showing you what the actual image looks like. There are 2 ways to color grade your footage. I am all about speed. I like to edit fast. I shoot multiple homes a day. So I try to edit as fast as possible, okay? And I'm not shooting interior design type stuff. This is all for the MLS. So I'm a little bit more carefree with my edits. What I do, I just apply a LUT to my image to automatically color correct the log footage. And so every camera manufacturer normally has a LUT file that you can usually find on their website. So for Canon, you can go to the Canon website and you can download the LUT file, and essentially it will color correct the footage as it's supposed to be if you exposed everything properly. So if we go and turn on our effects, you can see I have sharpening, color wheels, color board. We'll turn all that off, and this is just with the LUT applied. So you can go and find the effect, custom LUT. You could drag it over to your shot here. And then once you have the LUT file on your computer, you can click this drop down here, reveal in Finder, or choose custom LUT. And this is the Canon LUT right here. So as soon as I apply it, this is what happens to the image. Now there are other LUTs that you can find. As you can see, I can apply these and they will look very different, right? So these are more stylistic LUTs, right? So this one like turns the floor purple, this one turns it pink. So we're just gonna apply the Canon LUT. Now, if you don't have a LUT file, don't worry, because this is very easy to do or color grade. So you can go over to your color board, and we're just going to apply a new one here, start from scratch. All you're doing, and similar to editing an image, right? You're gonna just play with the highlights and the blacks, or the brights and the shadows. And again, you can do this in Adobe Premiere or Final Cut, right? You just different menus. We're gonna go to our color board, and what we wanna do is that we wanna bring up the whites to about 100, right? That's the highest that you want. Everything above 100, it basically clips out the image. Everything below 0, it's too dark. What I like to do is I like to start with the blacks. So this is the black, this is midtones, and this is the whites. So we're just gonna bring down the blacks right till they touch the 0 point. And again, this is telling you in the image that you're looking at where this black is. So these blacks right here are probably this desk that you could see, this picture frame, and then the frame around the doors. So, you know, you take a little bit of judgment on this as far as like how you want to, how black you want the blacks to be. I normally don't like to crush them too much. So as soon as anything starts touching that black point, that 0 point, I'll leave it there. Then we're just gonna play with the whites, right? So as you can see, some of these whites are already at 100, but the image looks pretty dark. Now, this ain't too bad, but in real estate, you want the interiors bright. And you can see out the window just fine, but we're just gonna have to blow out these windows a little bit. Normal judgment call is like, all right, if it's at 100, you leave it as is, but I wanna turn the interior a little brighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make a judgment call. And I'm gonna focus on the middle of the image here. So that's where most of the image I want to be exposed for. So I'm going to focus here on the midpoints of this histogram here. So I'm going to just turn that up to around, normally I go like 25 on the highlights or 30. Depends on how bright I want it to go. As you can see now that I turned these up, my black points also rose a little bit. So I can just bring down my blacks just a little bit more now. And then you got a slightly better exposed image. So this is the before and this is the after. So not bad. You could still now play with the midtones. Normally you don't really have to play with the midtones, but you can bring up just the mids now to make it a little brighter without over exposing the highlights. So if you want your image just slightly brighter, then you can play around with the mid, but you don't want them too much because that's what it's going to do. It's going to make it very flat. It's going to remove all the contrast in the image. So we can do that. So you can do that manually again for every shot, or you can take a base shot. Right? If you expose everything very similar, then you can take these settings, copy them, and then just apply them to all the other interior clips in your timeline. And you would get a very similar color correction. And then you can just go in each individual clip and then slightly adjust the exposure because, again, every room is going to be slightly different. You're not going to, when you're working and exposing really fast, going from room to room, it's not going to be 100% every time. So we're just going to undo that. I'm going to just apply the LUT because the LUT basically just does that automatically. Now, after I apply the LUT, because remember, C-Log, just like RAW, doesn't apply any effects like sharpening, any color effects, etc. So it's just a blank, flat image. So I'm going to apply a little bit of sharpening, just like 1 or like sometimes 1.5. Not too much. Then for this one specifically, I applied some color wheels here. And I forget what I did in the color wheel. So let's look. And I believe all I did was just I put the tint down slightly. So Canons shoot a little bit more to the magenta side. So I don't want this is what it originally looked like. And I don't know if you can tell, but it was just the whites were just a little bit more purple, magenta. So I just turned that down slightly. And I'm going to do it a lot so you could see. So this is if you turn down the tint all the way down to green or all the way up to magenta. So I'm just going to turn that down to -2 and that's it. I added another color board here on top of the LUT just to brighten it up a bit more. So this is before, which is not bad, but it's a little too dark. I want it a little bit brighter. I'm fine with it blowing out the window slightly. That's okay with me. That basically is all I do. This house was all white, the walls, the ceilings, the furniture. So not a whole lot of yellow that is leaking onto the furniture or the walls. So I didn't really have to remove any yellow, but that's an easy fix as well. So let's say you have a lot of yellow in a shot and maybe we can find something. Let's see. Okay, maybe this. So let's say you want to whiten up these walls just a bit, or you have a lot of yellow in the image. You can just go and apply a hue and saturation curve, and then you can just go over to the saturation, and you can either do the eyedropper to select the problem area, and it will do its best to find that color. And now I will show you just by maxing this out, you know, you're going to see an increase in the orange and the yellow colors. So I would just turn that down a bit just to make these walls a little bit more white. And again, similar to how you would edit a photo as well, just turn down the yellows or the oranges specifically. And that's it. You know, you just go through every image, just make sure you have it properly exposed. You just want the blacks to be black and the whites to be white. Now, actually exposing for C-Log, it's a whole nother thing. And I'm not going to go into it because it's different for every camera. And it's different if you're on C-Log 1, 2, and 3. They all work differently. And I'm sure it all works differently for Sonys and Nikons, etc. For me specifically, when I shoot C-Log 3, the base ISO is not 100. When you're shooting in C-Log modes, your base ISO is going to be different depending on whether you're on C-Log 1, 2, or 3. So if you're shooting C-Log 1 on a Canon, your base ISO is 400. So similar to like where your best dynamic range and ISO settings for a standard camera are normally at 100 ISO. When you go to C-Log mode 1, that would be 400 ISO. When you go to C-Log 3, that's 800 ISO. That's where you would get the most dynamic range. So I try to stay within that 800 ISO range. And then if I need more or less exposure, then I just play around with the aperture. And if not, if the room is too dark, then I'll just bump up the ISO. And I mostly shoot at a 2.8 aperture because I'm shooting wide, remember. I'm shooting probably 16, 17, 18 millimeters. So everything is in focus when you're shooting that wide. So you don't have to go to like 5.6 or 8 aperture like you do with photos. You just go 2.8. That is the color correction portion of this video. Now, let's talk about my choices as far as like how I lay out my videos. I always like to edit to the music, and I learned this from a lot of years of doing music videos, right? You could see that for the most part, all these clips are the same exact length, and that's because they're all hitting on the same notes. So I'm gonna find the pattern in the beat, and it depends on whether you're working with a loop or whether you're working with a song that has a bridge that then leads into the main part of the song and then another bridge and an outro, right? So I believe that this song had a slight 4-bar intro. So let's play that out. Boom. So you hear where that bass kicked in, that doom, doom, doo 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 doom. That's the beginning of the main portion of the song. So I'll find that, and when I get to that part of the song, I want to enter the house, right? So I'll use the intro bridge to show a preview of the exterior. So a main shot of like the hero shot of the house. That's the hero shot, that's the address. Then we show some aerials to show the surrounding area where it's located beside the water. This is the overview. We're going into the house, and now we're in the house. Okay? Boom. Okay. And every home is going to be different. Like I said, this was a office at the bottom. So right now we're in the lobby. He didn't want to shoot the actual offices because they're just regular dermatology offices. But he did want to show this part. I like to mix in just standard shots that show the whole room to give you a sense of where you're at. And then I like to show certain shots depending on if there's like really cool, unique decor or items in the house. I will focus on those as well. Just to give you an example, that would be the mask here. So I show, and I always shoot from corners, right? So I'm shooting from corners so you can get as wide of a shot. And then I lead into this shot of the mask here. And then I show the room from the other end, but you know where you're at. This leading shot here has the mask right in the middle. It's just a centerpiece. It's a thing that you see as soon as you walk into this room. That's why I chose this to focus on. You need to just understand what you should and shouldn't focus on. So when you're in a room, you can tell, okay, this is the centerpiece. That's why I didn't focus on this little bush under the TV or the pots, whatever, next to the window, because this thing is the centerpiece. So I show that, then I show another shot of the room here. Next, we're going to show the front door area to the actual home. I like to basically lay out my videos as if I was walking through the home so that people understand the layout of the house. I don't like just showing random areas because you really don't know where you're at. So you need to be aware of what you're showing. And you can see that all my shots as well are very slow. All right. That's what gives it that cinematic flair. All right. Just nice, slow, focused shots. You don't want to lose them with all this speed. So as you can see, I went from the front door to showing this, and this front door shot right off the corner, you could see the elevator, right? Just preview of the elevator, and then the next shot I actually show the elevator because again, the elevator is super unique. Then we're going up the stairs, okay? And then again, we're up the stairs now, and we're showing the elevator one more time to show that, you know, you could either take the stairs or you can take the elevator up to each floor. But this is the natural path of how you have to get into this home, right? So that's what I'm going to be focused on. And then now I'm walking in, and then I chose to do a push out shot, right? Because this is where we just came in from. We just came in from that staircase, and now we're pushing out. And again, towards the right, you can see the balcony area. So then I'm like, all right, well, let me show the balcony next because they know where they're at. They understand the layout of this home. And then we're going to show this balcony. And then next, we're gonna walk into this like nice hero shot, right? This is where you walk in, and this is the main living room area of the home. All right, so just a nice slow shot, nothing crazy. One thing that you got to realize about like what makes most of these videos cinematic or not is the way you walk with this gimbal. I see a lot of guys, and we're gonna critique some videos later on, but I see a lot of guys walking with the gimbal, and you can see them walking. Even though your gimbal stabilized, it doesn't stabilize this. All right. So it keeps it from shaking, but it doesn't stabilize your footsteps. So you need to be aware, and you need to do that little squat walk where you have your knees bent and you got to go from heel to toe. It's very important. It's going to make a big difference in your footage. So we're just going to show this from different angles. And again, I like to push into rooms as if you're walking in. So I always leave a little bit of the wall towards the left and the right, just to show that we're walking into that room. We're transitioning. It's up to you, but the main selling areas you want to show multiple angles of, like 2 or 3. The extra rooms and little half baths, etc., that's just one shot, right? But the main selling points of the house, the kitchen, the master, the living room, the backyard, the pool, etc., those are the ones that you want to shoot 2, 3, 4 different shots of. Then here again, this is a really nice unique piece right over the dining table, that ball. So we're just going to show the dining room, and then we're going to show that ball again, but close. And then we're going to run in through and show this area one more time. And I really like this shot because this isn't a wide shot. I shoot with a 16 or a 15 to 35. So when I choose to do these like focused shots, I push into 35 millimeters. And it gives it a really nice look. It really compresses the background and blurs it out. That makes it so that you're just really focused on that one thing that you're looking at here. In the kitchen, I just want to show the appliances are nice. The stove was ridiculously nice, right, with the gold knobs, etc., the gas grill. So definitely want to focus on those things. The pantry was like perfectly organized, so we just did a nice push-in shot there, push out. And then we go into this room, but, you know, this is the natural flow of the home. You know, you had this top-down shot here, but everything I do, again, is very slow and methodical. The thing that you always have to, and again, this is another thing I see with other people, is that they shoot at different speeds. So one room, they're walking a lot faster than they were throughout the another room. And so it throws you off, right? So you want to edit towards the beat, right? Every time there's a kick in the beat so that all your clips are the same. So subconsciously, the viewer expects when the next shot is going to happen because they're subconsciously following along with the beat. So that's pretty much it for now. I mean, there's a lot more that I can talk about, but for the most part, I'm just going to cover like the most important things as far as like how I color grade my footage, a little bit of my thought process on how I lay things out, etc. Now, what I really want to do is I want to look at some of your videos. I want to see if I can point anything out to help as far as like what I would have done differently. And don't take offense at this. Again, I just wanted to find some examples here to show so that you guys can understand the difference between like that video I shot and then something that doesn't look as cinematic or professional. So I just downloaded a few random videos here. So let's take a look at this one right here, and then we'll see what we can do. Let's go full screen. Immediately, this shot is good, but I would have done this shot 3 or 4 shots in. I always like to start off with a good shot of what the actual house, the front of the house looks like. Then I move on into aerials. Second shot, still don't have a good shot of the front of the house. You saw that quick jerk to the right, and you can see the person walking. You don't want it to feel like someone is actually holding the camera and walking with it. You want it to feel like that camera is just floating, and you're the viewer just gliding through the home. And this shot is just very focused on the gate. You know, there's nothing really special here. And then it just pushed in a little weird. It's pushing in a little bit too fast. And it pushes in a little bit too far into the pool. So again, I could see the footsteps. I could see the person walking in. That, again, needed to be smoother. And it was too long. Edit to the beat, because I guarantee you that clip was just too long. And maybe I can actually edit that. Let's see. So we have the music here. Let's try something here. Let's try, and we're just going to separate the audio, detach audio. All right, so where does the song kick in here? The main portion of the song. Right there. Okay. So what would I have done? And you could visually see this, right? You could see this on the timeline. You could see when the waveform increases. I would have gone, okay. Perfect example. Look at how fast, look at the speed of some of these other shots. And then look at the speed of this shot. Too fast, too jerky. You're going straight into that oven. You want to back out just a little bit. Just show the rooms you're a little too tight. Yeah, like you just went straight in. This shot, the focus of this shot is this right here. That was what you were focused on right there. All right, backing out. So that shot, but in reverse, I would have done. Custom reverse. And so the shot I would have done initially was this. Pushing into the kitchen from far away. Now we get a good shot of like what this kitchen looks like here. This should have been a wider shot. I don't think you're shooting this one at 16 to 17. This looks a little punched in. And it looks like the camera's tilted, and you saw that shake there? Watch this. I don't know if he hit the wall or something. Boom. See? You saw that shake? See how fast that shot? Look how fast that shot is. You see that? You're going nice and slow. Slow. And then all of a sudden, you're running. You're just running through the house right now. Don't even show a hallway. There's no reason to show a hallway. Look, you're speeding. And you're going, again, where did you end that shot? You ended it right there on that closet door. That, again, I would have reversed it and pushed in. So all of a sudden, the speed of this changes. You're going very fast into this room. You didn't have to do that turn. Push into the bathrooms instead of out. Let's look at another one here. Wow. Holy shit, the volume is loud on that one, so let's turn it down. So it's like a rock house, huh? Okay, rock and roll. Not very cinematic because you're shooting it a little bit too fast. You're starting out with this cheesy looking arrow, and then you're just flying right by the house, right? So again, I would have started with a shot of the house first, then move into like, this is the house, and then this is where it's located. And then after I show the user or the viewer where the house is, where it's located, then I would have just shot, yeah, all right, it's on there's the water nearby, etc. This shot here, is this a duplex? Okay, I'm guessing it's a duplex. That's why you focused on just the right-hand side of this house. Still, I think I would just came at it from the right corner. Like I would have came from like right here and shot it at an angle and just got the whole shot there. And you still would have been focused on more of the right-hand side of the house. Not a bad shot, but again, and let's see what we can do here. We'll go to hue and saturation because I'm sure you could tell there's a lot of orange here. So what you could do, boom. Right? So turn that down just a bit, Like that's before, that's after. Just clean the walls up a bit, It just will give it a slightly better look. And then let's look at the waveform here. Workspaces, color and effects. Yeah, it's already pretty bright. But maybe we can brighten it up just a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah. Right there, just slightly. And your camera is tilted. So look at this wall over here, just leaning over to the right. You can fix that after, of course, but you're going to have to crop in a bit. Damn, you might have really been tilted there, huh? So let's see. Now we're going to have to punch in a bit more. Just slightly better. This ain't bad. The only thing I'm having issues with here is the color grading. This is a yellow wall, then it's like a magenta wall. Then you got, again, a lot of magenta and orange on the wall. So I think you could have just fixed that with hue and saturation. But, I mean, the shots aren't bad, you know? The water, I wouldn't even have done that, you know? This faucet isn't anything special. I don't know if they requested to have the water on. But if you're going to do that, get really close, get really tight. You're too far away from it. It looks like you're shooting it from above at a downward angle. I can only guess that the realtor requested to have all these things open. I don't think that was your choice to do that. So that's on them. And you'll get this sometimes when you're shooting by the windows and you're trying to white balance. You see all this blue on the wall here. When you can't see the sky, right, and you have a lot of blue inside, then I don't mind and just turning down the hue and saturation for the blues on the walls, right? Okay. There. See? So look at the difference there. These are all the blues right here if you just bump them up. So just turn them down. And look at the shot difference, right? You see that? That makes a nice little difference there. You're way too high on this one. This is all ceiling right here. So just go down a little more with your gimbal and shoot these rooms a little lower. Yeah, like you're just shooting the ceiling right now. Especially when you shoot these shots with the walls next to you, you want everything to be nice and straight. So you can see all the warping on this wall here because you're shooting up with a wide angle lens. And again, this is all, most of this shot here is ceiling. All ceiling. That's a good shot. It's a good shot. Now, I'm guessing you're not shooting in C-Log because your sky is just completely blown out. I don't know if this is a power pole or a power line, but you can't even see that, right? So, like, your skies are just totally blown out. Look at this power. You can't even see it. It's a black power line. So, way overexposed. Again, don't get butthurt. I'm just trying to point out things that I'm seeing. Little things that you could do to make things a little bit more cinematic. What video can we use here? So, a lot of you are starting with aerial shots again. See, I would have started out with this shot because this shot here, unless you use an arrow, I don't know which house you're focused on yet. But if you started out with this shot first and then you did the aerial, I would have subconsciously already have been like, oh, I can recognize the house. Yep, good shot. Good shot. I think that right here, I think the only issue I have with this video right now, because I think the shots are good, is the actual camera settings. So that, look at these windows just completely blown out. Yeah, these are good shots. Like this is what I would have done here, except I would have lined it up a little bit better. Yeah, all good here. Yeah, it's just those windows. Like this shot was unnecessary, really. I don't know what really that's focusing on. Biggest critique is start shooting in C-Log or shoot in a flatter profile. If you don't have C-Log and you're just shooting in standard mode, do a custom standard mode. Put your contrast down all the way. That way you have a little bit more flexibility. You might get a little bit more dynamic range that way. Turn down the ISO just a bit so maybe you can see slightly out of the windows, and then in post, then bump up the brightness and the shadows and all that. And pretty much editing towards the music too. So shots aren't lasting too long. They're not too short. The speed is consistent. Just little things like that, right? Especially when you're shooting homes, everything is horizontal and vertical lines. So if you're shooting a home in a wide angle lens and you're pointing down, you're pointing up, or your gimbal is off tilt, it will be very noticeable because the lines will be skewed, warped, and those are just slight little things that will make the difference between having a cinematic real estate video or, you know, something a little bit more subpar. So yeah, look, those are just a few videos I saw that there was just slight little things that you can change there. Biggest thing, again, I would focus on, if you can, is start learning how to shoot in C-Log, which will give you more dynamic range, which will just enhance the quality of the video image, right? Really learn how not to overexpose or underexpose. And there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to properly expose for your camera. So I suggest you hop on YouTube and search for those. The other thing is when you're choosing a song, make sure that you understand the flow, the breakdown, the intro, the bridge, the outro of the song, so you can edit towards that, because that's a big part of the actual video, right? So there's an intro, so introduce the house in the intro portion of the house. Show the front, show the location, the aerials, and then once the song kicks in, now we're in the house. Subconsciously, people just naturally understand that flow. Edit towards the beat. All songs have a pattern. They just repeat after a certain amount of cadences. So find it and just hit a cut every beat. Now you can of course break this rule for certain shots. Normally what I would do is, like, if I'm gonna make a clip either longer or shorter, then it would be either half of that beat structure or double that beat structure. But it won't be a random note in between those. The other thing is just make sure your camera is aligned properly, not off to the right, to the left, not pointing up or down. If the house has any unique features that you really want to punch in on or focus on, if you have a zoom lens, zoom in as much as possible. That will compress the background. It will give you a more focused shot. Don't just pick random decor items. Pick things that are really centerpieces to the house, and make sure that the person knows and understands where in the house everything is. Don't do too tight of a shot when you're trying to show off an actual room and the space. Remember, that's all you're trying to show off, is the actual space. You're not shooting interior design. Don't focus too much on very close objects. Play around with your colors too. If you see magentas and greens and blues leaking onto the wall, you can easily fix those by going to your hue and saturation curves, whether in Adobe Premiere or Final Cut, using the color dropper and choosing the color you don't want, and just desaturate it a bit. I always desaturate interiors when it comes to like the yellows, unless it's just like a really nice, well-lit house with nice white lights. But most houses have a mix of lights or a lot of tungsten lights, so you will always need to desaturate a bit. That's also why C-Log is great, because that color information isn't burned in, so you have a lot of room to play around with those colors without ruining the image. If you guys have any specific questions that I didn't go over in this video, definitely comment it below, and I will try to make a video for those specific questions and answer those. There's a lot more that goes into this. Just didn't really have the time. I don't want to make this a little too long. This is already 53 minutes. But definitely I'm up to make videos for specific questions, settings. I'll even go and show you how I walk around and shoot, what angles I like to use and pick in shots. So yeah, that's it. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to comment your questions, ladies and gentlemen.